Hey guys, we're going to do something a little different here today. I'm testing out a new microphone and I'm using my iMac because the camera quality is better on that. My PC quality is terrible. So hopefully my voice is in sync with the video. I just got this. I kind of bugged a company for a little while till they finally gave in and sent me one, but I just got this Yeti, if you can see it, Yeti Blue microphone, and that's what we're trying out because I have a deep kind of monotone bassy voice, and I do get in my videos people complaining about my volume level, which I bring it as high as I can when I do the editing, and it's still I do hear it. It is a little bit muted. So anyhow, on this video, what we're going to do, and I'm sorry, it's kind of hard. Doing a webcam is strange to me because I want to stare at myself on the screen like I'm watching the video instead of looking up at the webcam. So anyhow, mainly I'm going to be looking at this because we're going to talk about the Zino. I know I'm doing a lot of Zino right now, but I think it's pretty worthy of all the attention it's getting. On YouTube, you see a lot of positive attention that it's getting. And I'm not, again, I have to keep saying this, I'm not trying to bash Hubsan by, focusing so much negativity on the Zino. If you're in my group, I'm kind of neutral with it. I want to like it. I really, really want to like it. And I understand 100% the price point. But for the price point, still, should we be where we are today? And that's where my little notes here come into play. And I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible because I know my videos are long. Blah, blah, blah. So first, I just want to clear one thing up. One comment I've been getting is how come anybody's yet to see flight videos between me and my Zino. First off, I'd like to do flight videos as much as I like to do an unboxing. I hate doing unboxings and I hate doing flight videos. I don't know why. I will do one on the Zino. But right now, all I do is I test whatever firmware they gave in their next update and I shelf it. I am not going to risk it with some of the problems it has. And another reason I haven't flown is because we have this one, the one I've been doing all the mods to. This one doesn't work. It has no Wi-Fi whatsoever. I'm still waiting on a board for this. I should receive the board for this, I think by mid-February. So once I get a new board for it, I'll do flights of both and show the battery mod. I hope to do the antenna modification on there. So what I'm putting in and doing in my videos, I do want to fly it and test it. So I really don't care about flight videos. I like watching y'all's flight videos. There's several of you that subscribe to me. I subscribe to you as a payback and appreciation, and I like to see the content of you flying in your parts of the world and the nice video quality that it does put out, and that's good enough for me. I don't think anybody is really coming to me for flight videos anyhow. But anyhow, let's move on. I don't have this in any chronological order. It's not the worst problem to the least worst problem. But where we are right now with the Zino, should we be here? It's been out long enough, and all we're getting is Band-Aid firmware updates. And I'll explain what I mean by Band-Aid firmware updates. As many of you know, I've worked with Hubsan, not for Hubsan, but I worked with Hubsan for about 2 years, just over 2 years. And I know how they tick. I know how they think. I know their moves. I know what they're doing with these Band-Aid fixes. It's called confusion. It's called not knowing what we're doing right now. So right now with the Zino, the biggest problem, or some of the big problems we have, is this disconnect. You're getting flyaways and stuff, and you can chalk them up to interference some of the time. But when you keep seeing all these disconnects, and then during that disconnect, you have no control, quad flies off and flies away, and you either lose it, or in some cases, it flies into a tree, you're able to retrieve it. But unfortunately, there's some guys that I've spoke to, and it sucks. They have lost their quad. So price point, it's low, but a few flights and it flies away and you can't retrieve it. And you can't get a replacement. So is the price point really worth it? You just threw away 300 some bucks, almost 400 bucks. So to me, the disconnect is a big issue. It is an issue. It's not something that I am just pushing off and thinking, an update's going to take care of this. I don't know that it is actually an update. I don't know. It could be a hardware decision, and that's why I'm going to do the antenna mod. If you look at my other videos, you'll see where I discussed doing an antenna mod. I've got everything ordered to do that, and once I get the new board, I'm going to do all that. I'm going to do a video of it, and then I'm going to fly both these Zinos from time to time and keep an eye on that disconnect. And if it's happening on one and not the other, I can confirm it to be hardware. But that is a big problem right now. And a lot of them are directly overhead. So that kind of tells me it is the hardware as well. That location of overhead and the signal of the Wi-Fi transmits. So that's a big problem. And some of you might not even be having that problem, and that's where I break it down to device. And I'm going to talk about devices here in a little bit too. So you have these loss of signals and you're getting the flyaways, blah, blah, blah. The next one is the Wi-Fi modules. I'm not saying it just because mine burned out. I'm saying it because others are burning out too. I know of probably 4 or 5 cases where people say that they have no Wi-Fi transmission whatsoever. Hubsan's telling them to re-update this firmware, hold the quad and squeeze it right here and see if it starts working. All these things do not do anything. The Wi-Fi modules are burning out. And why? If you go back to my video where I took the Zino apart, I called it right there, and I guaranteed it. These are going to burn up. Between that, the Wi-Fi and the camera processors, the 4K processors, there's a lot of heat in there. And if you have a 501SS and a 501A, one has Wi-Fi, one doesn't, the big thing you'll notice is the 501A, it gets hot. That Wi-Fi module puts out a lot of heat. And then inside here on the Zino, if you remember if you go back to my video where I took it apart, you'll see a metal piece that comes from here, and then it steps down about right here, and then it goes back a little further, about halfway point on the quad. That's their little heat shield. This thing is hot. It gets hot. And I noticed it got really hot during the update process. That is when I think my Wi-Fi actually burned out. It got too hot during the update process, which is a quick process. How it gets that hot and burns out is not good. But that heat shield is more of a it's more of a waterproof roof for when it rains. If you're flying this thing out in the rain, you get rain down in these vents. To me, that's just a protective shield because it's not doing anything for heat. You need ventilation. There is no intake. You have, oops, a foot. See, look at that. My foot's falling apart. God, I love this thing. You have little vents. Let's open her up. See how graceful and gentle I am when I do this? You have these little tiny vents right here. That's it, right there. And then these up top. They're kind of hard to see. There you go. Get the angles. You have those little vents right there. That is not the proper amount of intake and exhaust. Where you let air in, you have to let air out. And unless you're flying completely sideways, you're not getting much air, even I don't think probably from your props, into the quad on that side vent. Some little front vents up top above the camera would have been good. Can't see, but like right up here, something up there, some vents up there would have been good. And then extend these slots a little more to allow that inflow, intake of air, exhaust out the back. That seems pretty simple to me. Maybe that's another modification I'll do. I have no problem drilling a couple holes in the front and adding a couple vented holes in the back because I'm not out flying it around in the rain and stuff and getting it all wet. Plus we have that heat shield to protect our electronics from rain and stuff. So the burnt out Wi-Fi modules, that's one thing going on. And then very very odd that when you're flying this thing, you get loss of altitude when you turn left. I think it's when you turn left. Either way, when you turn it one way, let's say left, you turn left, you go and lose altitude. You turn right and you gain altitude. Why aren't more people pointing this out? A lot of the things I think are people have been so desperate for a 4K camera out of Hubsan, and a drone like this or a 501 is what they really wanted. I think they were so desperate for it. That's all they care about. And Hubsan sees that, and that's pretty much the focus of their updates is the camera. I want something that's going to fly, come back to me and work so I can see that camera footage. So this goofy losing altitude and gaining altitude depending on what angle you turn, I don't understand why people aren't discussing that a little bit more. That seems like kind of a big thing to me. If you're flying over top of trees like I do, I love to take shots directly down over top trees really close. I do it on my Mavic Pro all the time. I even do it on the 501 SS or A models. If I do that with the Zino and I take a turn and start descending, there you go, I'm up in a tree. So that's something that that's another problem. It needs to be fixed. The camera angle, it's not real bad, but a lot of people I have seen, not a lot, but I've seen a handful of people talking about how the camera angle's off. I'd have to go back and look at some of my videos to recall. And then one thing that I just recently started seeing is you're seeing some poorly balanced cells out of the Hubsan battery. So maybe this thing's turning out to be a dud. Maybe it's not such a good battery. It's definitely not a smart battery. People, please quit calling this a smart battery. You have a high voltage LiPo, that's it, an LIHV. That's all this is. Sound angry, don't I? Y'all, I'm happy-go-lucky. I'm laid back. I know I always sound serious, but sometimes Hubsan just F's me off a little bit. China in general can get under my skin with some of the things they do business-wise. So maybe that's why I get so monotone. And I can't be all animated like everybody wants. So that's the battery. And then I noticed this, and if you watch people's YouTube videos, they tell the story. When they're flying a nice straight flight and they're, focusing on something in their video, you'll notice that it's losing altitude. So as it's flying forward, it's slowly losing altitude. This is something I noticed very early on in testing. It's really apparent in one of Quadcopter 101's videos. And he was even fighting to bring it back up. It was these big pauses and he was bringing it back up. So if you watch people's videos, you'll see just flying straight, which it really doesn't fly straight. It does fly kind of at an angle, slight angle, but it does descend while it's flying. So that's another problem. It's something I call a problem. And here's something, maybe I'm just more picky than most people, but overall quad stability. The 501A, the 501SS, I'm using those as examples. I'll use them again. They are so much more stable than this Zino is. This thing's not stable. It's quirky and jerky. I know it's got a 3-axis gimbal to absorb all that kind of stuff, but you can see it in the videos. The way that gimbal pans and moves, it's not a nice, soft, fluent movement. It's not cinematic whatsoever. So the movement of that gimbal or that camera, your servos, versus the quirky jerky of the Zino, the videos could be so much better if they would fix that stability. Put out some good firmware. Give us some good, stable firmware. Quit doing the Band-Aids. Let's get one big fix and take care of this quad. So your job will be a lot easier, Hubsan. Everything you do, it just makes your job harder. And maybe a lot of you guys will disagree with what I'm saying. You know, your quads are flying perfect. I don't think there's one Zino out there that is flying perfect. Every feature is working perfectly. It's the stability is better than what I'm saying. The loss of altitude, I don't think there's one person out there that can deny one thing on this list. So that's overall stability. Let's get cracking on that one. I want to explain what I mean by Band-Aid updates. If any of y'all know me, I tested firmware the whole time I was working with Hubsan. That was the first and foremost, most important thing that I wanted to do with Hubsan. And then I always tested it with groups. We did pretty good with the full package of 1136. We did pretty good with the firmware package with the 1138. And then when all hell broke loose, I started testing 1141. I didn't include anybody else in testing. And there was some people that really wanted to be testers or thought they deserved to be a tester because they tested with me in the past. And I made a deal with Hubsan that I would test this firmware if nobody else was testing it outside of Hubsan. So that's what we did. 6 months I worked on that firmware. That is the best. And I'm not saying it just because I'm partial to it. Slightly. I'm saying it partially because I'm very close to it. But that is the most stable firmware, the best firmware the SS and the A have ever seen. You can't argue that with me. You compare it to 3.8, 3.6, anything prior, there's nothing better, more stable than 501 SS and A's than 1141 packages. And when I say packages, I mean the corresponding RX and TXs. Plus you have the new circle here mode. But when I was testing firmware, while I was testing, let's say 1141, while I was testing that, notice we didn't go from 3.8 to 3.9. 3.9 was a fail. 4.0 was a fail. 4.1 was a fail. 4.0 was a fail. 4.1 eventually passed. 4.1 did have issues. Things were corrected, and they stuck with 4.1 instead of moving on to 4.2. That's how Hubsan does it. That's how Hubsan's always done it. when they do their updates, every failed one, I guess, goes into a folder, and they keep that as a data type thing. So all the failed versions, I have them. And for the Zino, if you notice, you're getting back to back. You're getting 3.5, you're getting 3.6. Now there's a 3.7. So you're getting those, and let's see how much more time I have here. You're getting those. Is it 3.7 or 4? Is it? I forgot what firmware we're in. 4.5, 4.6, 4.7. One of those. It's 40 something or 30 something. I don't know. At this point, I'm getting sick of it, because you're noticing. If you notice, you're at 5, 6, and now 7's getting ready to come out. You should see a gap there. If you see a gap there, that's good, because that means they worked on it, they noticed the failed stuff, and they did not release those versions. But all they're doing is they're releasing these little band-aids. They're focusing on the camera. They're giving more camera updates than they are FC updates. And this newest version, 3.7 or 4.7, whatever it is, it's not released yet, but they've gone and put it into production models and sent it out, and people have this firmware. Now, Hubsan hasn't announced anything about this firmware. They haven't announced the changes in it. It's not, I used to think, oops, they made a mistake, but it's not a mistake. They're getting free testers. They're putting you at risk. They're taking a chance. They're sending out this firmware that's not released yet, and you are the tester. You start having problems with it, they start asking all kinds of questions. For reference, please share this video, or for better service, please email us at hubsanservice.com. No, they're getting test information from you. So be careful. When you get something, when you get a new quad, check the firmware, go on the Hubsan website, see what the most current firmware is to download. If you have a newer version, I'd be real careful with it, because you just became a test dummy. We've all been there. Then there's the smaller stuff like the firmware update. Hubsan kept saying, do them all. So if they just gave a camera update, they recommended you do everything together. Do the camera, do the FC, do the gimbal, do the camera firmware, do them all, even if you don't need to. I was just doing what I needed to do, except for in my tutorial video, I just followed what Hubsan recommended. I did not want to go against that, but I found that I can just update the camera. I don't need to update the FC and the gimbal to just update the camera. It seemed very fine. I think I even mentioned that in my update video. Notice I keep saying video, guys. I have a video pretty much for everything now on this damn Zino. Not everything, but go through my videos if you're not a subscriber, and look at some of the other Zino stuff I have there. But yeah, you don't have to go through and do all the updates just to do a camera update. So I don't know why Hubsan says you have to do them all. Actually, the reason that what brought this up is they just now finally, I saw they made a comment to somebody when they recommended you need to update your camera firmware, and he said, do I need to update everything? And they said, no, camera will be just fine. So Hubsan's learning as they go. They just tell you things to be safe. So, and that's fine. That's fine. So they don't know 100%, which is easy to test. They could just simply have tested it, but they don't know 100%. So they were just saying, update it all. That makes it easy. Just tell them update it all. Now they've figured out through other YouTubers, other Facebook groups, myself, you don't have to do the whole process. So that's that. And then I just want to point out the new Hubsan official Zino Facebook group. If you join that group, which Hubsan has a whole bunch of groups now for different, well, like 5 groups now for different models. if you join and ask a question. You have a problem. My Wi-Fi is not working. Then you get a response from Hubsan with a question. That's normal in troubleshooting, but only if they're going to keep coming back and answering. So they respond to your question with a question, and then you respond back with an answer, and then they respond back and say, for perfect service, please email Hubsan or service@hubsan.com. What does this do for everybody else? Say a whole bunch of people are having this Wi-Fi problem. Now, on that Facebook group, that thread, it stopped right there, and it's not helping anybody else. People that have these same problems, they have no idea what's going on because now it's through email at service@hubsan.com. This is another area where you could generate data within a Facebook group for people to search and find answers, or you could just tell every single person with the same problem to email you at service@hubsan.com so you can not have time to help people with other problems because you're just repeating the same old thing with different people. In my Facebook group, I make sure people know how to search the group. I like that questions get asked repeatedly. It doesn't bother me because you get different opinions. You get different experience and knowledge from my members. So if you know how to search the group, you go search Zino, no Wi-Fi. And even though somebody's asked that question 50 times, you're going to get a ton of data to read where you can probably find the solution to your problem. If you're in my Facebook group and you ask about a Zino problem, and let's say it's Wi-Fi like I just did, and I tell you, oh, just email me, private message me. Well, then nobody else knows what to do, and everybody's going to keep emailing me and private messaging me, and I will have no time whatsoever. Hubsan, you're exhausting. So I just wanted to point that out. The other thing I wanted to point out, which I'm sure some of you guys laugh at me, but part of my anal retentiveness is, or my OCD, whatever you want to call it, is this bounded. In the Hubsan app, I'm not going to lift up my phone because it's going crazy right now. Everybody's messaging me. But if you're in the Hubsan app and you're connected to the Zino, you're binding to the quad. Once you've done that, you're bound. Hubsan has it as bounded, and it drives me insane. It's been like this for as long as I can recall, but it drives me insane, and I keep saying something to them, and they've never changed it. It's probably how the Chinese say it when they're doing, their broken English, and I'm not saying anything about English and US, American English and all that. It's frickin' English. But bounded is not proper for this term, for this use. It is a word, but it's not for this use. So that's that. So again, watch your YouTube videos. They tell the story. People that are just, I think, kind of just enjoying the camera, oblivious to some of the things that I mentioned, or some are sugarcoating. And one person that I'm sorry, I just dislike this person. He knows it. He dislikes me, and he's a big sugarcoater, and he's a little bit sneaky too because, and if you don't know who I'm talking about Peter Martin. His YouTube channel is not under his real name. It's under another name, just like mine's not Christopher Wade or Chris Wade. It's Hubsan QC Help and Support. By the way, QC stands for quality control. It could be quality care or quadcopter. Take it however you want it. That's why I like to use QC. But Peter Martin, I'm going to use you as an example. I'm not being a bully, but he sugarcoats it because Peter Martin he is just in love with the H501A. And Zino, oh, here comes this Zino. He was so excited and I think had such high expectations for this to be the 501A 4K 3-axis gimbal. And it didn't turn out to be that way. So he makes so many excuses for Hubsan. Hubsan used to use Peter a lot for firmware testing, stuff like this. Now Peter kind of forces himself on Hubsan by, let's not call it forcing, that's mean, that's bullying. He volunteers a lot of emails and a lot of messages pointing out issues and problems. That's very good. Everybody should do that. But Peter's trying to get in the good graces of Hubsan because during my stint with Hubsan, I kind of cut Peter off in a couple spots. Peter wasn't doing as much as Peter used to do with Hubsan because if you tested for Hubsan while I tested for Hubsan, I read your reports. And reading Peter's reports, all he does is confuse the hell out of Hubsan, leads them in the wrong direction. And if you ever see Peter Martin in a Facebook group and you see his comments, you'll understand why. He turns this whole thing into rocket science and x equals y minus 10, blah, blah, blah. But the one thing about Peter Martin is he's, first off, these flaws. If you watch one of his videos, he actually does point out that it descents when he turns left, it increases altitude when it turns right, but he calls these features. I think he's a Brit. I think he is the superior English language. So he might think he's using the right term, but these aren't features. These are flaws. These are totally flaws, Peter. So these problems are being sugar-coated by calling them features. I don't know. But the biggest thing that I want to point out with Peter Martin is one thing you guys need to know. And you should know this about everybody that does a YouTube video. Ask them what device they're using. Peter Martin uses what Hubsan tests with, and that's a Chinese manufacturing company's phone. And excuse me if I pronounce it wrong, but it's Huawei, Huawei P20 Pro. That's a Chinese cellular device, and that's what Hubsan uses to test with. Hubsan always used only that until finally a few of us testers, when we were testing the app, we asked them to please get some of this, like Samsung, what is that, Korean or Japan, get some of those devices and test with those. So they bought 3 of them and they started testing with those. And that did make a difference, kind of. But Peter Martin's smart. Peter Martin knows this. I mean, he's done some work with Hubsan too. And buy the device that they test with. Buy the device that's always going to work. And I guarantee you that device is always going to serve Peter well. The iPhone, it's very friendly to use with the, oh, you like my new, I forgot to point this out, my little pop-up. Somebody at work gave me that. That was a little gift. That was very nice of her. But anyhow, iPhone is usually very friendly with the Hubsan app as well. But you're not seeing it as good, I think, as you are with this Huawei, whatever you want to call this phone. I have no idea what you call that phone. I'm not going to try to pronounce it right. Maybe I'll ask Siri or somebody. But that's it. Ask people what devices they're using. Like I used the example of Peter Martin. He's using a Chinese Android phone. This is going to fly and be a lot better than what you're going to experience out of some of these other Android phones that are made from another country. It's not because they're made from another country so much, but China knows China. This phone manufacturing company or cellular device manufacturing company, communications manufacturing company is what they are. They're right in the same location of Hubsan. They're right there in China. So that's it. The only other thing I've got is probably just some common sense suggestions when you guys take this and get this, especially when you get this out of the box, or if you go and change to another location even. For me, this quad is very fragile right now. And by fragile, I'm speaking of the hardware and the firmware. Do yourself a favor and learn how to do things correctly, and pay attention to what you're doing when you take it out to fly. So when you take it out to fly, it's not a bad idea to go into your app and initiate a manual compass calibration where you spin it like this and then you spin it like this. Do a manual calibration and learn how to do them properly. Don't sit there and go like this. Don't rush them. Do them nice, slow, steady. If you do it this way, if you hold it out and you turn your body, do it nice, slow, and steady. Don't rush these things. That's rushing. You're going to get the result that you get when you rush most things. So learn how to do your compass calibrations, initiate them from time to time. You can save yourself a lot of headache by doing that. That's a very good suggestion, I think. The other thing is, inside the app, there's a horizontal calibration. This would be something you do before you go out and fly. Lay it on a nice flat level surface, and you'll have your legs all open and everything. And then you'll just simply initiate the horizontal horizontal calibration, and it's done in seconds. A few flashing lights and it's done. And what that's done is that's zeroed out the parameters or the values on your barometer, and it tells your quad it's perfectly level. If it's like this and you do that calibration, that's the type of flight you're going to get. You're going to get horrible flight. So that's why it needs to be on a level surface. Learn how to do that properly. Do it from time to time as a preventive maintenance. There's just another thing to keep your Zino flying successful. Follow the app suggestions. I've ignored them from time to time. I haven't really noticed a problem, but maybe you just don't want to take a chance right now. There's too many risky things with this right now. So when it suggests, when you connect with the app and all that, and you get the message that it suggests you to restart the drone, how long does it take you to turn that off? Wait a few seconds, turn it back on, reset, reconnect. So follow those type of suggestions from the app. And then also another very important one is wait till you get your maximum amount of satellite signal possible. Some areas get less, some areas get really awesome satellite signal. Get your maximum. Don't, oh, I've got 6, I can go. You know, from 6 to 10, you'll see a difference, or 6 to 12, you'll see a difference. You will see a difference. Some people notice a big difference from just 9 to 12 satellites. Picture that as a radio signal on your car radio. You have a weak signal, you're getting a scratchy sound. You're hearing it, you can listen and enjoy your music, but it's kind of staticky and not clear. You hit your peak signal, you got a nice stereo sound. That's the same thing with your satellite signal. You're going to get performance based on level. Okay? Simple as that. So that's pretty much it. I have came to a blank page on my notebook. If there's anything else out there, if you guys are having any problems with your Zino, other than what I've mentioned, please feel free. Leave a comment. Please put it out there. Make people aware. And if you had a problem and you found the solution, or Hubsan did give you a solution, share it. If you're in a Facebook group and you have a problem and then they ask you to privately go and talk to them, go back to the Facebook group when you're done and share it with everybody exactly what fixed the problem. Help the community out. That's what it's all about. I am not selfish in any way. I'm not calling it you guys selfish, but I'm not selfish in any way. If I find out anything, how to do anything or fix anything, I make sure everybody knows it. That's why I have a Facebook group. That's why I have a YouTube channel. I don't do anything to benefit myself. I enjoy the hobby. I keep that on the private side. I have other quads that I like to fly, but I'm still kind of into this Hubsan brand on my channel, and I give answers. I don't keep it all for myself. So I know if you get your quad fixed, you're excited, and then you're off and flying, but just try to remember to go back to the Facebook groups wherever you were, whatever group you were in, whether it be mine, Hubsan's, or somebody else's. Go back to that original post and just let everybody know, hey, got the problem solved. Hubsan helped me out. They were great. Here's what they told me to do, and here's what I did. It fixed it. Boom, we're done. So then anybody can search that topic in the group search, and they can see the fix. They don't have to go through the headache of customer service, which everybody knows that's fun. Good times. So that is it. Voice is very dry. That's it. So hopefully I didn't do this all at waste, and the audio quality is good from my new Yeti microphone. I might not be close enough to it. I have the gain adjusted up high, so hopefully it's good. Hello, can you hear me? All right, that's it. Couple things. Most of you probably already tuned out by now, but a couple things I forgot to mention. I might start doing some live. I don't know. I've asked some people for suggestions. I'm not getting a whole lot of feedback on that, so maybe people don't like live. Maybe people don't want to see me live. I don't know. I'm open to it. I'd like to try it. So if there's anything you want to talk about live, we can do a live segment one day. And the other thing is the name is going to change on my channel. I'm not running away from Hubsan. No, this is a good train to ride. I'm not going to run away from Hubsan. I will continue doing all the Hubsan stuff, but I do want to do some other things as well. Just small stuff. I'm not going to flood the group with it, but I want to change the name so it's not just targeted as Hubsan. I'm not going to be getting into a bunch of other drone reviews or anything like that. I hate doing reviews, and you know I hate unboxings. What I'm going to do though is when the FIMI X8 SE comes out, that one's going to be getting my attention. Still haven't got my tracking number on that one yet, but I figured it wouldn't be till probably the end of March till I saw that thing when I ordered it. So I'm okay with it, but it's definitely getting compared to the Zino. A few of them started delivering. Keep a lookout for the FIMI X8 SE, and I think you're going to find a really good competitor here, and Zino should be trembling right now. So that's another good reason, Hubsan, for you to get your shit fixed. And what that name is for the new group, I do not know yet. I have a list that I've picked. I'm going to keep it a very short and simple name. I'm not going to try to get too quirky, but just a very simple, short channel name. So it's very simple to remember, and you don't have to do this whole long Hubsan QC help and support when you're recommending to somebody or whatever. So I'll be doing the FIMI, and I would like to add a few car things. I have a new car that I bought this past summer. It's an Infiniti Q50 Premium, and I love this car. And I know I tell everybody, read your owner manuals on your quads. I'd never read the owner manual on my car, and it's all of a sudden one day I figure something out, and I'm really excited about it. And I guarantee there's a ton of people out there like me. So there's just simple little car things I'm going to throw in there, features and things like that of my car. And you don't have to watch those videos. You can just simply move on past them and watch the Hubsan videos if that's what you're here for. So that way I can kind of open the channel up to more stuff, try to expand a little more, and also do the other things that I enjoy doing. So the name is going to change, and I will talk further about that in another video. I've droned on long enough here. So that's it. Everybody, thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you for your time and sitting here watching me babble on. Maybe you think a lot of this is just ridiculous and not a big deal. I think it's a ridiculous big deal. I don't care about the price point. When I see people that comment in other Facebook groups, or people that message me personally, or they put a comment in my Facebook group that they just had a flyaway and they crashed and broke or even lost their quad, I feel really bad for these people. You just spent $400 and threw it away. So I don't care about the low price point. If it's promised to do this or that, then it should be doing this or that. Plain and simple. All right, so that's it. Thanks again. We'll talk at you later. I'm out of here.